who wants to get out of Shakespeare's Globe Theatre, Bankside. No?
We're here, folks.
Thank God for that. So look on the right here, underneath the bridge, you can see that red brick buttress. Now look in the river over on the left, and there's its twin. Now these were the supports of the first suspension bridge built over the Thames by that famous engineer Isambard Kingdom Brunel, the Hungerford Suspension Bridge. When it was dismantled, the chains that held it up went to the Avon Gorge down in Somerset. And then of course this then became Charing Cross Rail, the extension of the Kent railway system into central London, and then we built these golden Jubilee walkways in 2002. Look to the far end of the bridge in front of us, that massive development you see there. Well, this used to be called the Shell Centre. It was owned by Royal Dutch Shell, and when it was built in the 50s, it was the largest employer of people in London, 5,000 clerical staff. Now there isn't one. And all those buildings there, brand new now, they're all offices, apartments. Quite amazing where we build apartments today, but there we are. Now the building in front of us is the Royal Festival Hall, and that is the only remaining building from the Festival of Great Britain. That was 1951. And if you look behind the pier there in front of us, the yellow stairway, well underneath there is a place we call Skateboard City. Now we used to go mad at the kids on their skateboards and their push bikes through there, but of course last month some of those kids were winning medals at the Olympics. They created such a stir, they've actually shut some of the area off and they're refurbishing it for the kids, because we have skateboarders here 24 hours a day. On all those buildings you see in front of you, these are all exhibition and concert halls, all part of the South Bank Centre. So as you see, we're just going to pick these few people up, and then when we leave here, I'll be doing a safety announcement for you all. Then we'll have a nice little cruise through the centre of London.
Wow. Wow. Good. That's gut. Das ist gut. Yeah. Hang on a second, might get a picture here.
Right, as we go alongside, you want some nice smiles, because you're all going to be on the local London news.
No, you are, I'm not. You two, I'm not. No. No, Dad. You two, I'm not. That's that trouble. Boom. Get joke, Mum. Wow. Little speak. Oh, yeah, cool. Speakers. Front ready. Uba. Oh, look, there's no way to go on it, Dad. There's no way to that. No, we took down that way. That goes straight to this boat anyway, Dad. Yeah, last time we did that. Under that, folks. Told you videoing now. Do video, Mum. Video, right. Oh, it's funny.
Right, as we leave the pier now, I think this should give you a little bit of safety information. The boat you're travelling on, the Thomas Doggett, is licensed by Marine Coast Guard to carry passengers on the Thames. Our certificates are on display in the reception area. On board we have inflatable life rafts, individual life jackets. If you're downstairs in the saloon, life jackets are underneath the seats. If you're up here on the top deck, the life jackets are in the clearly marked silver boxes. We're also in contact with all the boats working today and the emergency services. Now the emergency services on board, well, the toilets are all found at the back of the boat, and unfortunately our barman didn't turn up today, but if you want a drink, a member of the crew will give you a drink downstairs. Or sell you a drink, I should say. Don't give nothing away anymore. So as you're turning to go downriver, over there on the right again, you can see a building with a silvery green roof. And that's the back door to the world's famous Savoy Hotel. A night in the Savoy now is over £500. But if you fancy a drink there in the famous American bar, a gin and tonic is only £21. But you have to wear a jacket and a tie. Nothing else. Just a jacket and tie. So as we turn around, in front of us, the longest bridge in London. Now the bridge is officially called Waterloo Bridge, but it's also known as the Ladies' Bridge. Now the reason for that, it was built during the Second World War. You must remember the men were away in the forces. The only builders and labourers left in London were the women left behind. So the women of London built Waterloo Bridge. We put a plaque on the bridge 2 years ago to say thank you. It only took us 75 years. Now the bridge itself was quite unique when it opened because it's faced with a self-cleaning Portland stone. So basically when it rains, it washes the bridge and it turns out this lovely white colour, but as you see it's a bit fading now. Now while we had our year off, they changed the river a bit. Look under the bridge arches each side of us, you see these black boxes on the bridges now. This is all the new digital lighting. We never used to have lighting under a bridge, only on the front, but they can change the colour of the bridges overnight. Quite a nice little thing to see now overnight. Through the bridge on the left, the building with a green dome is Somerset House. This is where we kept records of births, marriages and deaths. Now is the headquarters for the tax collector. You get a letter from Somerset House, leave home. Now over on the right, the first building, the big sign tells you they're trying to open the National Theatre. As all theatres were closed down, this one they're trying to reopen it in the next month or so. The white tower block to the right there, well that's empty. This is where we used to get all our programmes on ITV. So if you watch the morning programmes, this is where they used to come from. Now they moved out to the old BBC studios at Shepherd's Bush and they were supposed to come back. But they decided they're going to stay where they are. So this building will probably become yet another luxury hotel. Over here on the left, all dressed up today, is the Wellington. She's the livery hall of Master Mariners. Prince Philip, the Duke of Edinburgh, he was the life president. That's now been handed on to Prince Charles. If you look at the stern of the ship, see the red ensign is flying. Well, look behind that flag where that big old tree hangs very low. And in a minute, you'll see two silver dragons. See where the white lorry is there now? Well, the dragons are guarding the City of London. You've just entered what we call the Square Mile. The dragons keep the evil out and the money in. Behind the tree
There you go.
in the Middle Temple, where we train the legal profession of England, the Inns of Court. If you saw the film Da Vinci Code, the first one, this was the Middle Temple. This is where the Knights Templar was settled in London before going off on their crusades. But on the right here, the famous old red building. Look at the top. Can you make out the advertisement on the top? The oldest advert in London, that is Oxo. The building itself, this belongs to Prince Charles. It's part of the Duchy estate. The Duchy of Cornwall actually owned most of the South Bank. The glass building next door is the headquarters of Sea Containers. The bottom half is offices, the top half is a luxury hotel. Now look above there, you can see that tall blue glass building, that's the Blackfriars Tower, and it's purely apartments. The cheapest apartment in there is only £750,000. The penthouse on the top, 3 floors of a penthouse, that was sold for 32 million. Just a lot of notes, really. Now here to our left, this little white building with a green roof, the original City of London School for Boys. This is where Winston Churchill started his education. The last building on the left, well, until recently, that was the headquarters of the multinational company Unilever, but they've now gone back to Holland. Now this is the Blackfriars Road Bridge, which was opened by Queen Victoria. Look each side of the arches, see the church pulpits? Well, look at this one that's close on the left, look at the top of the marble, and you'll see carvings of swans. If you look in the same place on all the other pedestals, these are all the birds we have on the banks of the Thames. The second bridge, the little red columns each side, is all that remains of the first railway bridge designed by Isambard, King of Brunel. And the last bridge, Blackfriars, the only railway station ever built over the Thames. It's the only station in the country where the roof is completely covered with solar panels. But it doesn't make the trains run on time. Through the bridges on the right, the building with a tall chimney, the Tate Modern today. Now if you understand modern art, it's a wonderful place to go. If you don't understand modern art, I can recommend the pub on the right. On the left, look at the skyline here. See all these little churches? Christopher Wren designed 52 churches. They all stood within the city limits. His masterpiece, St Paul's, that was 35 years to construct. On top of the dome is the viewing gallery. To reach there, you climb 400 stone steps. That used to be the best view round London up there. Now the red building on our left is the new City of London School. This is where a young lad called Daniel Radcliffe started his education, and then he went on to become Harry Potter. Now this is called the Millennium Footbridge, but it's better known by its nickname, the Wibbly Wobbly Bridge. So many people tried walking over on this opening day, it swayed so violently it was closed down for 6 months. Well, to be honest with you, all the bridge has ever done for us, it's now ruined the best view of St Paul's we had in London. Because if you look to the left up St Paul's stairs, this is the only place in London where you could take that full-length picture. But not anymore. Now over on the right there, you've got a little cream-coloured house. Look to the right of the trees, see the one with the red door? Well, that's Wren's house. That's where Christopher Wren lived during the rebuilding of St Paul's. Now there is a book you can get, it's called Wren's House at Bankside. Yep. And it tells you all about this part of London. Now next door is Shakespeare's Globe Theatre. Now look at the top of the Riverside Steps on the right. And if you look behind the end of the pier there, you've got a set of black iron gates. And they're closed at the moment. Now each lump of metal on the gate is a character from a Shakespearean play. William Shakespeare put on 17 first nights at the Globe. Now, if you've never been to the Globe, you can actually get a ticket to go and see a show. A seating ticket is £110. If you go along there and those gates are open, you can buy a standing ticket for £5. You see exactly the same show, and all our top actors all want to appear at the Globe Theatre. Now look up at the skyline here on the left, you see this is different. Now that tall black and chrome building on the left there, well, in the 70s, that was the only tower block in the City of London. It used to be known as the NatWest Tower. It's now called Tower 42. Now this is called Southwark Bridge. It used to be the least used bridge in London because no one could find it. But traffic in London is impossible now, so everywhere you go, we've got traffic jams. In front of us is Cannon Street. The railway station sits on your left, and if you look up there to the right ahead of us, there's the tallest building in Great Britain, the Shard. Now at the top, that's the viewing gallery. Under the gallery you've got the private apartments. Round the middle you've got bars and restaurants, and the bottom a five-star hotel. Before we go through the bridge, you look to the right there, this is the lovely old Anchor Tavern. Now this little tavern dates back to the early 1600s. This is where Samuel Pepys stayed when he wrote about the Great Fire of London. Also over there on the right, look between the warehouses, we're renovating a little ship called the Golden Hind. Now that little vessel's been round the world twice, but it's a really nice place to take children or your grandchildren, because while they're being entertained on there, learning all about Francis Drake, you can nip through the back and go round Borough Market. Now have a look on the left, these are the new towers, the walkie-talkie, the one with the curved top, the pyramid, the gherkin, the wedge. We're not sure what this new silver tower block's being called. It's not open yet, so they haven't given it a name. Terrible I call it, but there you are. So this is London Bridge. Now we've had 4 London bridges. First one fell down, second one was burnt down, the last one we sold it as a jigsaw puzzle. Most of it went to a place called Lake Havasu City in Arizona, and this is the new London Bridge, open 1973. When we go through the bridge on the left, we look between those first 2 buildings, you'll see a little church called St Magnus, one of Wren's many designs. And if you go in the church, you can see replicas of the old London bridges. But look to the left of the church, there's the monument commemorating the Great Fire. If you lay it over easterly, the way we're going, it marks the place where the fire began, the baker's shop in Pudding Lane. The blue glass monster on your left, this is one of the many private banks in the city. These are the people you go to when you don't want the tax man to catch your money. I go there about once a month. Look above it, the walkie-talkie, the Sky Garden. Biggest enclosed garden on a tower block in Europe, 4 restaurants and a viewing gallery. The difference with this gallery, if you pre-book it in advance on the internet, you get a 45-minute slot, free. If you pre-book the Shard, no matter what time, they'll charge you £30 each. The lovely little yellow building on the left was the oldest fish market in England, called Billings Gate. Now Billings Gate is an old English word. It means a foul-mouthed fish porter. You might have heard of one of them. Today he's called Sir Michael Caine. The building behind the trees on your left is the Custom House, the main customs offices of this country. Now over on the right, everything you can see between these 2 bridges, now called London Bridge City. This entire section of London belongs to the Quatter royal family. Under the archway there is Hayes Gallery. Before COVID there was lots of nice little bars and restaurants in there. I'm not sure what's going on at the moment, I haven't had a chance to go down there yet. But the warship on our right is HMS Belfast. She's been here nearly 40 years now as a museum. She has 9 decks to explore, from the engine room to the radar scanner at the top.
Dad,
She was on the convoys to Russia, the Normandy landings,
Dad,
and in the Korean War. Very popular if you want to take kids on there. See, you have a nice little rest there in the middle on the deck chairs and let the kids wander around the ship on their own. British sea power from the Second World War. Now on the right we have a very controversial building on the river. We call this the Power Rangers crash helmet. This is the headquarters for the Mayor of London. We don't say too much about him because we keep getting in trouble. We look outside his office on the right. This area is called the Scoop. It's actually an amphitheatre. In the summer they were putting shows on for the kids in the afternoon, cinema for the adults at night, and in between we were sitting here watching the cricket on the live screens. On the left is the Tower, 1,000 years of English history, a palace, fortress, prison, zoo, royal mint and a place of execution. Look on the wall, you can see the words entry to Traitors Gate, or as we used to call it, the first one-way street in London. When you went in, you never came out. Now, if you've never seen the Crown Jewels, this is the best year ever to go and see them, because we haven't got millions of tourists in central London. So instead of queuing up for 2 hours, you might have to wait about 20 minutes. Now in front of us is the last bridge, the famous Tower Bridge, which opened in 1894. The lower sections in the centre, they raised to let the ships come in. Takes 90 seconds. Now when they were raised years ago, we simply walked over the top. So to stop us doing that, they glassed them in and charged us. But look up there today, can you see the glass pavements?
Yep.
So nice big smiles, you're having your picture taken now. It's also surprising what you can see from down here on a nice sunny day. Now going under the bridge, you've broken a record. You have now passed through the city faster than anyone in a car, a bus or a taxi. So look down the river there now folks, this was the London docks. There are no docks working in London anymore. The River Thames now is a housing estate. Now, our major stop is on the left here, folks. Now, if you want to go down to Greenwich, you stay on this boat. If you don't want to go to Greenwich, you just want to do the little circular cruise, this is where you leave us to catch a boat back throughout the day. Just check with our agents on the pier and they'll let you know the times of the boats. But if you want to go down to Greenwich, we're going to be leaving here basically straight away, and it's an hour's trip down to Greenwich and back to here. So if you are leaving us here, make sure you have all your personal belongings. Be careful stepping from the boat and onto the pier. But as I say, if you want to go down to Greenwich, please stay on board. Now for those of you leaving us, I would like to point out a little thing about the guide. Now we do guides coming down the river, hopefully to make your trip a little more enjoyable. If we have succeeded, if anyone leaving us here would like to show appreciation, you can do so in the old traditional manner. By the front door as you leave, you'll see our old silver bucket hanging up, and if you want to put anything in, it is entirely up to you. Once again folks, if you're going to Greenwich, please stay on board. We'll be leaving here as soon as we can. Wow. Cool.
Enjoy this everyone, hope you're enjoying this.
Oh my Ate, do you know what of the stories? Manira naman ito, nag-video ako. Ano sabi niya?
Wow.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Okay, it's okay.
Yep, needs some time being. Come. What do we got? Yeah. We're getting a lot of footage actually.
Keep going like that, didn't you? So it's got the
view behind you there, Peter?
Huh?
The view behind you?
Oh, yes, yes, yes. Way. Look at that. Look at that, buddy. Look at that. Use that. It's pissing me around.
yeah, the way.
Tommy, why me? Don't do a reference there. Wow, look at that. Get used to this. But you get used to this, Mum.
Just got used to it.
What's that cruise thing? Yeah. You want to start that cruise? And constantly.
There you go, my son.
Cheese or something, or words to that effect.
Cheese and crackers. Oh, this is fun. This should be now, everyone.
See what else.
I'm French. It's on the Untitled Chapter. Oh,
Do you want to take both of
go on.
you?
Go on. Don't do anything right now. Why not? Go. Yep, still going.
You ready?
Oh, good.
Cheese. Got it?
I'll take another one.
Alright then.
Try the other one. There you go.
Just like the other one.
Good, you got a lot of memory in
Well,
those
folks,
things.
on the left here, this is the Tower Hotel, and this was the first hotel built in Docklands in the 1970s. And they made such a mess of it, they said we never let them build another one like it. Now look next door, you can see the entrance of St Catherine Dock. St Catherine was the first enclosed dock. The reason it was enclosed, this is where we unloaded the high value cargo. Gold, silver, ivory and tin. Look over there today, you see the back end of that private yacht? That's someone's new toy. That's about £25 million worth. It's not a big yacht, because otherwise it wouldn't be able to go in the lock. But look over the back there, that big brick building right across the back. Now that building started its life as a prison for Napoleonic prisoners of war. In later years it became a warehouse where we stored ivory, so it's now called the Ivory House, and today it's called Luxury Apartments. It's a lovely place to wander around, St Catherine's, if you like looking at other people's boats. Now on the right, these are the old Victorian warehouses of London. Now 40 years ago these were rat-infested derelict warehouses. Today they're rat-infested luxury apartments. The rats are never going to move out because they've now got central heating instead. The entire development on the right belongs to a man called Terence Conrad. Now he was in the design, and that white tile building on the right, he created that, the Design Museum. 20 years ago, if you was in London, you was in the design trade, you had to be seen there having lunch in the Blueprint Cafe.